welcome back to Stacie's Corner. I'm Stacie, and continuing the City of Bones story, Clary said, how could you do this? How could you give Jace to Valentine? He's going to kill him. And Hodge says, no, he's not. That's not what he said. And she said, well, he said he's going to be with his father, and his father is dead. And so what else would it mean? And he said, it's just complicated. You wouldn't understand. She said, I understand enough. I understand that Jace trusted you, and you just gave him to a man that hated his father and probably hates Jace and going to kill him just because you're too cowardly to hide behind your curse. And he said, that's all what you think? And she said, that's what I know. And he says that didn't the Lightwoods, weren't they as guilty as I was? They were able to go outside and in the sunshine and stuff like that, where I couldn't even go outside. I couldn't put a foot outside. I couldn't even put my hand out a window because of the curse. So you don't know what's going on. And he's as he's talking to her, he's writing something on a piece of paper, and he gets up from his desk and walks over to the fireplace and folds up the paper and throws it in. She said, what are you doing? And he says, I'm sending a message. And she said, just let me out of here. And he said, I can't do that because you're going to kill me. And she said, I promise I won't do that. And he says, you were not raised like a shadow hunter, so your promises don't mean nothing. And he tells her that you were not raised like a shadow hunter. You don't. You can get away from all of these the scars and the killing, and just walk away. And when you can. And she said, I can't do that. And he just says, I give you my condolences, and he walks out the door. So Clary falls, sits down, and is just lost. And then she says, didn't Jace give me back the steel at Madame Dorothea's apartment? And so she tries to feel for a pocket. She looks in the left one, there's nothing there. And she feels into the right one, and she feels something hard and smooth, and she pulls it out, and it's the steel. So she gets up, and she feels for the invisible wall. And as she does that, she brings the steel up, and it's a vision of a rune comes in her mind, and she draws it. As she closes her eyes, she draws it, and then she knows when it's done, and she opens her eyes. And when she does, she sees the rune shiny and bright, like it's hurting her eyes, and she hears like a shattering noise, loud shattering noise, and the floor shakes a little bit, and then she knows that she's free. And she walks, she runs to the window with the steel in her hand still, and looks out the window, and she sees Hodge crossing the street and walking into the crowd. So she runs out the door of the library and runs down the hall, and she stops for a moment to put the steel in her pocket, and she runs outside and towards the street that she saw Hodge, and she thought she missed him, but as she's running, she sees him turn a corner. And as she turns a corner, he's in this alley, and he's at the dead end near a restaurant's back entrance. And there's trash all over the place, and she remembers a story called Rat's Alley, and that's what she feels like. It's just, this is a dark alley, and you're cornered like a rat. And she walks closer to him, and he says that you still have a chance to go and get away from this. And she said, just tell me where Valentine is. And he says, I can't do that. I'm more scared of him than I'm scared of the clave. And she said, I just can't do that. And so she sees something shiny, and she realizes that remembers that Jace told her that his favorite weapons were the chakrams, with her flying disc. And so she ducks right in time as he throws one of the discs, and it just misses her head and lands into the fire escape next to her head. And he gets up and he's about to throw another one when all of a sudden this thing, black thing, hurls in front of her between Hodge and Clary. And she sees it's a wolf. It's a big black wolf with a gray streak down its back. And it's growling at Hodge, and Hodge says, "It's you." Like Hodge knows this wolf. And he says, "You still have time. You can, Valentine will take you back." And he just starts growling. And Hodge throws his other flying disc at the wolf, and it lands on his side. And when that happens, the wolf gets on his hind legs and attacks Hodge by biting into his shoulder, and which causes Hodge to fall down. When the wolf lets go of Hodge, he turns around and is looking at Clary, and Clary decides to run to the mouth of the alleyway to escape from the wolf. And so she's running, and when she does that, right when she gets to the mouth, the wolf grabs a hold of her leg and yanks her back. Right before she is knocked out, she screams. Clary then wakes up in this, wakes up and she sees that she's laying on a cot, and there's a little rickety table with a candle on it, giving her enough light to see. And she thinks this room's kind of a little odd at first, and she tries to get up, and she can't because she has a shooting pain that runs down her head and down her back. So she lays back down, and right above her head is a mirror, and she picks up the mirror and she looks at herself, and she's like, "Oh my God." And what she sees is this long scratch from her eye down to her mouth, from where Hugo the bird attacked her. And then she looks around in the room, and she sees that there's these bars that go from the roof or the ceiling to the floor, and she realizes that she's in a cell. That's what's weird about it. And she wants to get up again, and when she does, she hears footsteps, and somebody comes to the door, and it's Luke. And she almost faints because he's there, and he quickly grabs her and puts her back on the cot. And he says, "Are you all right?" And she says, "Don't touch me. Stay away from me." And he says, "I deserve that." And she said, "Yes, you deserve that and more, because you abandoned me, you abandoned my mother, you didn't care about us, and I don't understand. We trusted you, and you were our friend." And he said that, and all of a sudden there's blood soaking his front shirt, and she said, "Is that blood?" And he said, "Yes, and I think my stitches came through when I picked you up." And he said, "Hodge doesn't have his throwing arm anymore, but he still struck me and probably nicked one of my ribs." And she said, "Hodge?" And then she realizes, "You're a werewolf? And how could you hide that from me?" And he said, "I wanted to tell you. I wanted to tell you everything, but your mom didn't want you to know anything about the shadow hunters or the shadow world." And she said, did my mom know that you were a werewolf?" She said that yes, she did. And he said, but you were part of the circle, and you were pretending to be a shadow hunter, and you were Valentine's right-hand man. And did they know? And he said, no, they didn't know. And he said, plus, I was born a shadow hunter. I was turned into a werewolf. But that's a long story. And he kind of taps on the wall when he's talking to her, and after that, two people come in, and he said, "This is my right, or my second and third in command." And the Aldrich was one of the guy, and he said, "I think this is yours," and it was the dagger that Jace gave her at the Hotel Dumort, the vampire hotel. And he said, "So you guys met?" And he said, "Yeah, she threw this at me and struck me." And she said, "Oh, I'm sorry." And he said, "It's okay." And the female, Cameron, she said, "Is that what you wanted us here for?" And he said, "No, I opened up my wound again when I picked up Clary, and couldn't you also fix her up?" And she said, "I'm going to go get a healing kit." So they leave, and Clary says, "So what do you mean that's your second and third in command?" And he says, "I am the leader of this pack." And she said, "Wow, you're a leader of a pack, and you can't even go and use them to fight Valentine and get my mom back?" And he says, "Very complicated. And but since you're here, I can tell you the whole story, since you're not going to believe me unless I tell you my side and what's up." And that's all I was able to read today. I hope you like it. Hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. I love you. Bye.